Another one is X-Ray by Ray Davies or Davis of the Kinks.
Mm-hmm.
He's also a very good storyteller. His is more literary too. He does some, I don't know, it's not like a straightforward narrative. He does some tricky things with the way he narrates, but that's also quite entertaining. How many is that? 4? And there's a book called Revolution in the Head by Ian MacDonald, and it's a description of every Beatles song ever recorded. Like, it's background info on every single Beatles song. That was a very important book for me that I read probably 20 years ago. But it's a great source book, right? Like, anytime if you have a question about a particular song, like, everything is there. This was before Wikipedia. Wikipedia probably bases their articles on his book, and
his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was I haven't got around to adding this to any list, but McCartney released something last year or maybe the year before, his memoirs, and it's all a kind of a similar idea about all of his work as well, and a kind of the minutiae and it might even be like a double edition anyway. But I think it's quite a something to get your teeth into. I'll give you a couple of mine then, and I'll go on.
Well, I was just going to say, I've got his biography. It's called Many Years From Now. It's on my shelf. I haven't read it yet, but that's like the standard bio. It's not an auto bio, but that's like, an important biography of Sir Paul. So I'll get to that eventually.
I did read a Beatles book earlier this year called 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's written by Craig Brown. And it didn't tell me anything I didn't already know.
Yeah, that's...
Or maybe told me one or two things about postmen who lived in the same, or who delivered the letters to McCartney or Lennon or whatever it was, some kind of obscure stuff like this, and then it went into explain about whatever this postman or whoever this guy had a connection with the band later on, years down the line. But yeah, it was all about, this is an easy read,
Right.
But apparently bestseller. I was like, oh, it must be good, but yeah, it was
a little bit disappointing.
It was a bit disappointing. Maybe I expected too much.
Well, let's hear what's on your list.
In no particular order, I would say a book that Nick Hornby's High Fidelity. Just from a kind of music nerd point of view, that since we're making a list now, I thought, well, why not? Because I remember reading this book for the first time. I still had a copy. I think I must have given it away when I left South Korea, but I took it with me to South Korea. One of the 4 or 5 books I took with me. And I just loved the attention to detail and the kind of classic nerds working in music shops and telling people what they should be listening to and why you're wrong, and all of this kind of stuff. And it's about one man's mission to change people's musical opinions,
I never read it, but they made a movie out of it, right?
John Cusack, if I remember. Jack Black kind of steals the show with his character. He's the one that comes in and tells people what they should be listening to.
Well, I didn't see the movie either, but how is the book organized? Is it like by song, like each chapter is a different song or an album?
No, so it's more like a guy breaks up with his girlfriend and then he's a bit like, okay, so where do we go from here? He owns his own music shop, or a record shop rather.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the whole kind of backdrop, and then it kind of relates to his relationship with music through the years. So there's a bit about Chess Records and the kind of great soul artists, and which will take me to probably my next author as well. I can tell you now, even he talks about Peter Guralnick, who's written biographies of Elvis, like it's Last Train to Memphis. Dream Boogie was the Sam Cooke book he did. He's written also books about blues and stuff like that. I think he did work with Rolling Stone as well. But he name checks Peter Guralnick's work and stuff like that. So you know this is a guy who's serious about his music in a very detailed way.
Right.
But it's that kind of more about the relationship between him and music and him and his life, you know, and where how important music is to him as a person.
But is it fiction or nonfiction?
Yeah, it's fiction.
Okay. Probably
So
with autobiographical details, but it's presented as fiction.
I think it begins. God, it's a long time since I read it, but I think it begins with a list. So it's something like the 10 best songs ever written, you know, or the 10 best Hollywood movies ever made. And he goes through like Chinatown or The Godfather and stuff like that, and then he's having these kind of arguments in his head why it is and why it isn't. You know, it's a nice, accessible book as well. You know, if you want, it has that kind of narrative of just. I wouldn't really call it a love story, but you know, there's a kind of common thread there that's not too. You know, that's what keeps you interested. And then the music's the bit that really kind of adds that. It's different gravy, as I would call it.
Right.
So Nick Hornby, High Fidelity, Peter Guralnick's Last Train to Memphis. I've only read, there's 2 Elvis books he did. One, Last Train to Memphis, I'll say it again. I don't know, I haven't read the other one. And Dream Boogie, Sam Cooke. I've also read some of his blues
Sam
books.
Cooke. Are you a big Elvis guy?
Yeah,